message to the billionaire class: you can't have it all.
Yes, everybody, it is another week, and I am Chris Robinson. I don't ever actually introduce myself in these damn intros, and I think I should probably change that, just because. I'm here today with my good friend, my senior UK correspondent and senior science correspondent, Michael. How you doing, Michael?
I'm pretty good.
We were also actually trying to get Jordan in here, but he was way too low energy with his whole trip going to, Iceland and everything.
Yeah, to be fair, he's flying out in the morning.
Actually, he's flying out sometime late afternoon tomorrow, actually.
Well, the guy should be here then, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should be. But we even did the show early today, or this week,
for this job, you need stamina. You need stamina, and Jordan just doesn't have the
stamina. No, he just doesn't have it. I mean, it's really sad, pathetic, baby. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have another special program today. We're going to be talking about the science of hurricanes. Some recent events in hurricane, events. And some historic events. Going back to a few older hurricanes that I did a little bit of research on, and one that I actually even lived through myself. But since we couldn't have Jordan here because he was way too low energy, let's drop right into it, I guess. Now, let's start by trying to figure out what a hurricane is. So, Michael, you've done your research, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've read up on it a little bit?
I'm no expert. Hurricanes aren't really my thing, but I've been doing some reading. So, we all know the very basics of what a hurricane is. It's a very big storm. You got winds, you got rain.
It's big league.
Yeah. So, what a hurricane actually is, in more detail, is when you get warm air from the ocean rising, which rises up into the atmosphere, cools down, and forms clouds. And these clouds then start to spin and rotate because of the Earth's rotation. This is why in the northern hemisphere, hurricanes will go one way, in the southern hemisphere, they'll go the other.
Northern hemisphere, they spin counterclockwise, and southern hemisphere, they spin clockwise. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this actually is a phenomenon that you can actually even see when you flush a toilet, or even watch water drain out of a sink as well. It's the same situation that happens with that. Just about, at least, right? Isn't it? Like,
it has an effect, but it's probably more just due to the way your sink's built. You only really see it on big things, like a hurricane could be 100 miles across.
Yeah.
That's why you get this massive effect thing.
The effect is the same. Maybe not like...
It's the same effect. It's the same idea.
I didn't mean... Yeah. I guess didn't really mean that it goes clockwise and counterclockwise on the other sides of the Earth. But yeah. I was conflating two things. I'm sorry. I'm a failure. All right.
But yeah, it's the same idea. And well, that's essentially because the Earth's a ball and it spins and it's not flat; it's a ball. The middle bit where the equator is moving faster. You imagine the North Pole is sat still, and the equator's going like 1,000 miles an hour or so.
Yeah.
So the top bit of the hurricane, the northern bit, is actually moving slower than the bottom bit. So the bottom bit overtakes it.
All right.
So you get this spinning effect.
Yeah, and there's this thing, I believe, called the Coriolis effect.
That's essentially what it is. Yeah.
That makes the wind refract to the right, I believe, right? Isn't that how it works, sort of, in the northern hemisphere? That's
what I was saying then, because in the northern hemisphere, in the north, you're moving slower than you are towards the equator. So so the bit of the hurricane at the equator is actually moving faster than the bit at the northern bit. So it starts to get away from it. And sort of...
Yeah.
The wind then, because it's moving faster, it gets to a higher pressure. So it'll move up into the lower pressure area. And you get some sort of weather effects there. But it moves up into the lower pressure area. And the other half of the hurricane moves down. And you get this rotation.
Yeah.
So the hurricane spins around this bit in the middle called the eye, and the eye is the bit where this hot air and hot air from the hot water is moving up. And what's going on in there is you've got warm oceans. Water is evaporating off the warm oceans and rising up, and like I say, forming these clouds, which spin. So these clouds are spinning around. As long as it's over hot, warm ocean, the hurricane will keep getting bigger and bigger. Essentially drawing the energy out of these oceans, and that's what powers it.
Yeah.
This is also why climate change is such a big deal for hurricanes, because of course, the warmer the oceans, the more energy is there for the hurricane to draw on, so it can get bigger.
Yeah, if the water itself isn't warm enough, it won't really power these storms. Mm-hmm. Now, I did have a little clip here from Neil deGrasse Tyson talking specifically more about another famous hurricane that actually has been raging for well over 300 years by a lot of estimates, and it's colloquially termed the red spot on Jupiter. Now, if any of you guys know much about Jupiter, there is this gigantic red spot. It almost looks like the shape of an eyeball. Like, if you're looking at someone's eye on their face, at least. And it's been there for a very long time. And it is actually a massive, massive hurricane. So let's listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson real quick and his explanation of hurricanes and this the red spot, because this is also a very interesting hurricane that we know of.
You've seen that thing on Jupiter, that storm that never quits? The big red thing, the big...
Yeah, we call it the red spot on Jupiter. We call it Jupiter's red spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it suspicious to you that a storm there could go on for 350 years without a break, and we never have storms that go on for 350 years without a break? We don't even have storms that go on for like 6 weeks without a break.
So, first of all, these storms are... when we have storms, it's in our atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So that's gas.
Yeah.
We rotate once a day. Mm-hmm. And so that rotation creates what we call a Coriolis force, which moving air that moves from one latitude to another actually has its direction deflected because of this Coriolis force. And this is why storms rotate in one direction counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. If you were going north-south at all in the northern hemisphere, you will deflect to the right, no matter what you're doing. Okay? That's why you have a low pressure system, and I'm a ball of gas below it. If it's low pressure there and I'm air, I'm going to head for the low pressure. That's how this works. It's low pressure. That means it's higher pressure out here. So all the pressure is going to send me in that direction. But I'm crossing lines of latitude. And so Earth's rotation will deflect me to the right. How about air that's above it? It says, I see a low pressure system. Let me go to it. So it goes to it and it deflects to the right. So all this air deflects to the right, but it's still trying to get to the center of the low pressure system, but it can't because it keeps getting deflected. And all this deflection becomes this cyclonic energy that turns into a storm. And that is how you get hurricanes, tornadoes, what do you call it? Cyclones. Okay.
So we're back at Jupiter.
Yes,
finally.
we are.
Yes.
So now watch.
Oh,
so this happens in the gas.
yeah.
All right. The Coriolis force is heightened if you spin faster. Okay? And so what is Jupiter? It's 100 times bigger than Earth. More than that, 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's like 10, it's 10 times across, cubed. So it's 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's mostly gas. And it rotates once in about 10 hours. You want to talk about ferocious Coriolis forces? We have storms that last weeks here. Hurricanes that pick up and they get weeks on this little speck we call Earth that has this much atmosphere on it. Go to a planet that rotates twice as fast, is 10 times as wide, 1,000 times the volume, and is mostly gas, and you're complaining that it lasted 300 years?
Oh, man.
God damn, Tyson.
I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He has such a way with explaining things. It's just great.
I just wish I was that charismatic.
Yeah, sadly you're not.
True.
No, but yeah, he has. We probably should have just played his video right off the bat to explain it.
He didn't mention, but one of the other reasons the hurricanes last so long is that since it's powered by the warm underneath it.
Yeah, he didn't mention that.
It doesn't go because it never goes over land. Whereas hurricanes over here obviously could go over land and they lose that. There's not a warm ocean underneath it anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas the storm on Jupiter just stays over the thing it's over.
That's true. So yeah, usually what happens with hurricanes is they can sometimes be broken up over the ocean, over warm waters, if enough counter wind actually comes into the picture and slows it down and then just disperses it. That can happen.
I can mention that warm air rising.
Yeah.
If the wind can keep that warm air bottled up, it can't go anywhere, and so more warm air can't rise, and so the hurricane will weaken. That can happen.
Yeah.
Usually what happens is, though, a hurricane, it's hard to do that. A hurricane will go over some colder water, and that'll weaken it, and then the natural wind can do its thing.
Yeah, so... Yeah, it usually has to have something preventing it from building energy. And when it's over warm waters, it keeps building energy, typically. If it goes over colder water or land, especially with land, because there's literally no water there, and it's just sort of like hard objects that really don't move as much. So that in itself, when you... look at even at like wind, it's
just expending energy at that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of energy. A lot of people don't know how much energy is given off by a hurricane. It's equivalent to a nuclear weapon going off about every 20 minutes in a big hurricane like Irma. It's ridiculous. Being hit by a hurricane is analogous to getting nuked.
It's not fun.
Nuclear weapons are a lot smaller, so the devastation is more complete in a small area. But a hurricane will devastate an entire state. Or if you're in the UK, a country, if it was to hit up here.
Yeah, has England ever been hit by a hurricane? Probably not, because it's too cold up there, right?
Yeah, not properly. We sometimes get like the tail end of a small one. So by the time it gets up here through the Atlantic, it's barely registers. It's like a category 1 at most.
Yeah, but then it only hits Ireland anyway, so who cares about that?
We get them hitting Blackpool now and then.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
We don't get like 20-foot storm surges or anything. It hits the Blackpool seawall and people on the front coast are evacuated, but that's about it.
Yeah. Now you've had anecdotal talks with some people that like would build stone walls to protect their houses from flooding, and you had a interesting comment in that regard. Now, wasn't it like the person said something?
They were saying it was a friend talking about other people. They live up in Massachusetts, I think. Plum Island. Do you know where Plum Island is?
No clue.
Me neither. But they're saying about Plum Island. Apparently, the sea levels rise every year, and every year the Atlantic comes along and takes part of their house away. And so they try and pile stones in front of their house to stop the Atlantic from taking the house away. And they made this immortal comment, which to this day I use. They said, look, if the Atlantic wants your house, it's taking your house, and there ain't shit you can do about it.
It's a pretty good comment.
It's similar to that, with the hurricane. If it wants your house, it's having your house, and there really ain't much you can do about it.
There's literally nothing you can do about it. I mean, I don't even know if you could like build your house out of like pure titanium and like have it like completely strapped to the ground as solidly as you can. I don't even...
Things like, weirdly...
That still wouldn't protect you anyway, because there'd be
one of the safest buildings to be in.
Objects and stuff too, but...
One of the safest buildings to be in during a hurricane is actually a prison, because it's all reinforced concrete.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. That was a weird fun fact.
That's a really good way to get people to go to prison, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Arrest me.
There's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
Better arrest everyone. But well, we'll be talking soon, actually, about some right-wing conspiracy theoryism.
Yeah.
On
should we mention?
Should we bring up the clip from Rush Limbaugh?
Just to finish this off, obviously we're talking about Hurricane Irma, and Hurricane Harvey's just happened. It looks like what Irma's going to do is basically trash the Caribbean islands one by one, then turn north and just go up the length of Florida, probably along the coast, which isn't good.
Yeah, the estimated path that I'm seeing, if you go on to CNN, they have a nice little graphic here. It's a level 5 or a category 5 storm right now over the Turks and Caicos Islands, and it might even be over the Bahamas now. I can't remember. I
believe Barbuda was so badly hit, like 90% of the buildings on the island are destroyed.
Yeah.
It's just...
Barbuda is further, like southeast-ish from where the Bahamas are. That's on the southeastern edge of the Caribbean islands and everything over there. So yeah, this storm has been just plowing over island after island right now.
Yeah, it's just going bam, gone. Another one, bam, another one, bam, and it's just gonna a total Florida. I just wish we could have a very localized hurricane, just trash Mar-a-Lago. They have some 8 billion tons of. Apparently,
I can't
a hurricane.
Believe you said that though. The Rush Limbaugh clip. He actually talked a little bit about that.
Final fun fact: hurricane has about 8 billion tons of water in it. Just jeez, Christ, that's a lot. Anyway, yeah.
So let's get to the clip here. This is Rush Limbaugh's take on Hurricane Irma, that is quickly approaching Florida, and he has a interesting perspective on the what he calls fear mongering about this storm. So let's get to this.
The reason that I am leery of forecasts this far out, folks, is because I see how the system works. Now, I don't mean this to be a personal attack on anybody, but the one thing that's undeniable throughout our culture is that everything has been politicized. And in that sense, much of our public information system, including from the government, from the drive-by media, has been corrupted. It has been corrupted by the individual biases and whatever present bigotry of the people who hold these positions. You can see it in the way the deep state deals with Trump. You can see it with the way the intelligence community and the Washington establishment deal with Trump. So in the case of a hurricane, what happens? Well, there are many levels here. When a hurricane pops up, and we can't forget Hurricane Harvey, because Hurricane Harvey and the TV pictures that accompanied that go a long way to helping further and create the panic. Now, in the official meteorological circles, you have an abundance of people who believe that man-made climate change is real. And they believe that Al Gore is correct when he has written, and he couldn't be more wrong, that climate change is creating more hurricanes and stronger hurricanes. And of course, when Harvey hit, it was the first hurricane that had hit in 12 years. There haven't been more hurricanes, and they're no more dangerous than any others in previous years. But it doesn't matter, because the bias is built in. So there is a desire to advance this climate change agenda. And hurricanes are one of the fastest and best ways to do it. You can accomplish a lot just by creating fear and panic. You don't even need the hurricane to hit anywhere. All you need is to create the fear and panic accompanied by talk that climate change is causing hurricanes to become more frequent and bigger and more dangerous, and you create the panic and its mission accomplished, agenda advanced.
So first of all, the science. Hurricanes probably won't get more frequent. It's just that they'll get more powerful. Hurricanes require specific conditions to form. It's likely that what will happen is when those conditions are met, you'll just get a bigger hurricane. So the little hurricanes will become bigger ones more frequently.
Yeah.
Also, as an aside, the area in which hurricanes form probably won't change much because it's dependent on the Earth's rotation, not so much on the temperature.
Yeah.
The amount of water in hurricanes will go up drastically, though, and the power of them will go up quite a bit. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to buttress that with... I have read that Hurricane Harvey was the wettest hurricane we've ever had hit the contiguous United States, the continental United States. And Hurricane Irma is the largest hurricane we've had in this region.
Yep, since you've had records.
It's weird how that works, right?
It's weird how you had Hurricane Harvey and they said, wow, this hurricane is massive. It's like once in 500 years you get one of these. And then like 10 days later you've got another one.
Yeah. And there's even another one, I think, that's formed further out in the Atlantic as well. Yeah, Jose.
I don't believe that's a big hurricane yet, but it is it's got a name. So it's a tropical storm.
Yeah, it could build. We hope it doesn't, but it could build to another big storm. And if there's enough warm water out there, because we've talked about climate change in another episode before, what happens with climate change, the reason we're not really seeing as much of like the drastic climate change is that a lot of the heat is being absorbed into the oceans. And so the oceans are what is heating up faster than anything else. Mm-hmm. So it stands to reason that hurricanes are going to be one of the first things to start getting really, really powerful. And because of that.
When the hurricanes are powered by the ocean and the ocean gets more energy in it, your hurricanes are going to get more powerful.
Yeah.
It's not saying every hurricane will be more powerful, but everyone has more energy available to it to get more powerful.
Yeah. And there are factors, and we had 12 years of no hurricanes hitting the United States. That doesn't mean there weren't any hurricanes in that time. They just never hit the United States coastline. And I guess because of that, they were just not really all that important to think about. But regardless, we do have two of like the most terrifying storms happening right now. Harvey, is Harvey completely gone by now, or is it still going? I don't even know.
I believe it's still kicking somewhere. I think it's weakened a bit. Yeah. It moved back out into the ocean, didn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's still an issue. That was an extremely, extremely devastating hit
Houston,
onto Houston.
I saw photos of them, like of the water being up to the street lamps, because of course the storm surge happens, which could be massive, and then the hurricane itself dumps loads of water upstream, so you get storm surge flooding, and then all the water from upstream comes downstream. Just
because of how these storms work. What's happening is a lot of the air is rushing inwards into the hurricane, and then it spirals upwards into the upper ends of the hurricane. And I believe it's part of that and the low pressure zone that's actually created in the eye of the hurricane that actually pulls the ocean upwards to some degree, especially once it hits when it hits coastlines.
Have you been to a lake on a windy day and you see these ripples form on the lake?
Yeah,
it's that exact same effect, except the windy day is 180 mile an hour winds and the ripples are 20-foot waves.
Yeah. So what's happening is it starts a wave. From what I remember hearing on a couple documentaries I listened to yesterday, it starts a wave under the water. An underwater wave starts forming under the hurricane. And once it starts hitting shallow waters, that shallow water, or the land there, starts actually pushing that wave upwards.
Mm-hmm. Exactly the same thing happens with other waves, except of course it's like I say, it's a much bigger wave.
Yeah.
What will happen sometimes is that because the wind in a hurricane is spiraling at ground level, is spiraling in towards the eye, because the eye is where the low pressure is, so everything's trying to get in towards there.
Yeah. So
the water will actually be pulled back towards the hurricane. So you get this, all the water gets pulled backwards. If you've ever heard of during a tsunami, it's a very similar effect when the water recedes by quite a distance. It gets pulled back and then suddenly thrown forward, and you get this massive wave, like a tsunami.
Yeah.
As the eye passes over. It's it's quite a thing.
They are, in a word, awesome. The power is awesome.
It is.
It's
humbling.
Yeah, that's another word for it. Awesome and humbling. Not awesome, not in like a those fucking radical bro kind of way. It's more like a awesome in like holy hell.
Yeah,
that just happened.
Like holy I say, they outpower anything, all of mankind. They produce more electricity, more in we do in electricity.
Yeah, it's
insane the amount of power they produce.
Yeah.
But you can get 20-foot waves that hit the shore, and mm-hmm.
Yeah, and but like going back to these things, Irma right now I believe is classified as a Category 5, and that is the largest category we have, because that sort of just lumps every other kind of hurricane that's stronger than a certain point into that one category. So
that's like a mid to stronger tornado, not an EF5, like an EF3 or 4, going off, but across an entire 100-mile area.
Hundreds of miles sometimes too. Yeah.
It's a pretty significant thing.
I think they can even be almost like 500 miles across these storms, which is insane.
And I'm a bit confused by Rush, because he knows there's a hurricane there, right? He's saying we don't need to worry about it because I'm not going to trust the forecast. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, it does happen where these storms are really, they're looking like they're going to come to the shore and hit.
Yeah, sometimes they'll be a bit unpredictable.
And then they either disperse beforehand or, push out to sea and then disperse out over the sea.
If it goes up, if it turns right around and goes out to sea, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible, but it's not likely.
Yeah.
We know there's a hurricane there, so there's probably something to be worried about.
And honestly, it's all about preparation with these things. How are you going to prepare? In Miami right now is right in the right in the center of the pathway for the Hurricane Irma right now. There are millions and millions of people that live in that city. Mm-hmm. How do you prepare people? Does he want to prepare 30 minutes before it's supposed to hit the coastline or something?
There is that's the other thing as well. Sometimes you're better off preparing, even if you don't think it's going to actually get there, because you'd rather be caught prepared.
Yeah, you'd rather prepare for the worst and get nothing than prepare for nothing and get completely just essentially killed by this storm because it rips your house apart and throws you 300,000 miles away. It's probably a bad idea. You should probably prepare for that kind of thing. But he's too inundated with this hatred of climate change that he can't see straight. And obviously, we probably have seen that for a very long time with him anyway, because he is a moron. But I mean, you've got to be really stupid to try and it is also interesting there. He's talking about how how the left and the news organizations are trying to politicize this hurricane while he politicizes it for his own purposes.
I don't get why.
This is just fear-mongering based around climate change.
I've never understood why science is now politicized by saying, hey guys, you know, like when every climate scientist in the world says something's going to happen and you ignore them and then that something happens, why is that political? And then pointing out, okay guys, this climate change is a serious issue, we've got these big hurricanes, we need to deal with this. That's not a political, it is a political issue, but it's not politicizing it, it's not a partisan issue. Yeah. This should be something we go, yeah, okay, well, what we're going to do.
Yeah. If only I had Neil deGrasse Tyson's response to this whole thing. He had
Republicans
a great
might say, rather than deny it, Republicans say, okay, well, we'll come with some market-based solution. We'll incentivize people to, we'll incentivize the market to produce better protections for hurricanes, better flood defenses, and we'll do it that way. You can come up with right-wing measures to deal with this without being insane. But for some reason, they're just insane. They just deny it ever happens, rather than doing it properly.
Yeah, it's terrible. But Neil deGrasse Tyson had a recent quote about this. I don't remember the quote verbatim or anything like that, but it was something along the lines of, nobody denied the fact that the solar eclipse was going to happen. You know, when all of the scientists were saying, okay, there's going to be a solar eclipse this day at this time in your area, so be ready for it, check it out, it's going to be amazing. Nobody was denying that was happening. Nobody. And yet, for some reason, we have to, sit here and we just have all these people on the right side of things that, they deny everything that happens around climate change.
Honestly, I think it's a mix of two things. One, oil lobby money. And two, the Democrats support climate change. And so the Republicans, being the Republicans, say, well, the Democrats support it, so we're against it. Don't matter what it is, but the Republicans will be against it if the Democrats are for it. Obamacare was a right-wing healthcare, and they're against it just because it's Obama.
Yeah, it was essentially what was called Romney Care at one point because Mitt Romney instated something very, very similar to the Affordable Care Act in his state when he was, I believe, governor.
So the Republicans are against it, and the same thing with climate change. If the Democrats are for it, the Republicans say, well, we're against it then, because we can't agree on anything. And then they complain about things being too partisan. And you're like, come on.
Man. It's so ridiculous. It's really saddening how ridiculous they are.
Yeah.
Like it's always funny. They always politicize every single one of these issues, and then they complain about the left politicizing these issues while they are literally politicizing it with what they're saying. It's like, watch, the left is going to politicize this, and, well, that's because they're all leftists and they're all Marxists. and,
that's because
and they're all trying to make climate change reality.
It's because we're looking at a hurricane and saying, right, this is bad. How can we, not have this happen?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose there's not much you can do to prepare for a hurricane, but can we do something?
He even, says, and then they have the footage of Harvey. Hurricane Harvey, they're going to be using that as a political gain to fearmonger people. Well, Harvey just happened. It's literally still happening, potentially. I don't know. And, it's not an unreasonable thing to be worried about and want to prepare for, because an entire city was flooded, in some places, numbers and numbers of feet. I don't know how high it got up to.
The street lights, so we're probably talking 20.
Yeah.
20 foot, 25 foot.
Probably. I mean, it's just...
Like I say, there's an issue where the downstream gets rain and floods the storm surge, and then upstream gets loads of rain. And so the upstream water moves downstream, so you get massive flooding concentrated in certain areas. Yeah. If you drop a few billion tons of water on something, you're going to get a lot of flood.
Yeah.
A lot of flooding.
So in some areas, they got more than 40 inches of rain.
I believe it was like 70 at one point, wasn't it?
Well, this might be a very conservative number. There's also, it says, with peak accumulations of 51.8 inches.
51, okay.
So...
Because, this
is only on Wikipedia on Hurricane Harvey, so this is something
I'll go with that.
Be...
And I'm just basing that on because there was one point where we've got 50 inches of rain, and we've got another 20 inches to come, so I just thought, so it's like 70. Yeah. That might be wrong.
It could be. It could be around there. It might not be. We don't know
it's
entirely
a lot.
Right now.
It's
the
I'm
main
6
point
foot,
is
and I'm thinking, that's like my height.
Yeah. Yeah, it has millimeters here. 1,318 millimeters is 51.8
1.3 meters. That's like my chest height, but across the whole area. And of course, that's going to concentrate.
Yeah.
Damn.
So some areas obviously were lower than others just because of what is it? Sea level. Yeah. So I mean, some areas are going to get hit harder than others. And some places, like a certain megachurch that's down there in Houston, kind of got nothing. Even though originally, from what was happening, because there was a very big controversy with, what is his name? Joel Osteen? Yeah. He has a megachurch over there in Houston, and they were saying originally before... anyone really got wind of this. Like, he was saying that their church was flooded out and no one could get to the front doors. And magic
and then someone took a video of the inside of the church, just completely bone dry.
There's there's security cones and stuff outside the place. There's no, it's wet, but there's no flooding anywhere near the church.
Yeah, someone literally took a video through the window.
Yeah, so
and it's a church that can seat a few thousand people.
Yeah. So afterwards, though, they did open the church, from what I know at this point, and they are using it for refuge now. But they had to have some internet hero actually come in and say, no, it's not. I'm standing right outside of it with a camera. It's not flooded out. But, that was a Category 4 storm, I believe, when it hit Texas. Quite devastating. And, we're going to be dealing with that for a while now. Now, thankfully, I believe the Democrats and Trump and all of them have come to a funding deal to bring federal emergency funds to the area, thankfully. But
there's a lot of people saying about Ted Cruz, who of course was going to refuse to fund your area, I believe, Chris, New Jersey, after Sandy hit.
And we'll be getting into Sandy right after this, I think.
Yeah, but naturally, of course, the people of your area were like, "Oh, Ted, it appears you need some disaster relief after a hurricane." Well,
bootstraps. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, shit, man, you're just gonna have to get some bootstraps on your ass.
Yeah, because the thing was, Ted Cruz was in the Senate when Hurricane Sandy happened. And let's see, what year was Hurricane Sandy? 2012.
Yeah.
It was in 2012. And so he was in the Senate at the time, and they were trying to pass relief funds for New Jersey, New York. This entire area was hit by Hurricane Sandy. And he was one of the detractors of it, and he voted against it, and he was like, I think there's too much pork here, and I don't like where the funding's going, and, just being Ted Cruz about it. And, but,
Ted Cruz.
Yeah, that's my Ted Cruz impression. I know it's big.
It's a great impression.
But yeah, he was bitching and moaning about it. He refused to want funds to go to New Jersey and us over here, and now the tables have turned. Oh my God, his state, his beautiful state of Texas has been hit by one of the biggest storms in American history. I don't even know. But now they need funding, and he's like, oh, please, we really need funding. We really need it really badly. Back then, it was just, I just think, no, I didn't think it was really right, blah, blah, blah. And still, but, he's going right to that federal trough, as it is, right quick. Because this is one of those guys where he's trying to be a libertarian-ish type person, right? Isn't he?
Mm. Yeah, hard right-winger.
And those types of guys don't want anything to do with the federal government, even though they're in the federal government. But then it's always interesting, right when they need something out of the federal government, they just get on their hands and knees and just beg for it. It's amazing how it works. But, yeah, I think we should talk about Sandy, though, because, yeah, I actually lived through that one. That one hit here in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. I was actually living in Toms River at the time. And I was actually going to college at the time, and I was a pizza delivery guy at the time, too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst weather we get up here is, like, when it rains, and I live on top of a hill. So I have honestly no idea what it's like in a hurricane. So help me out.
Mike, when it's the weather's really bad over there, it's like, oi, it's foggy outside. Oi.
Yeah. The worst that happens is fog, or sometimes there'll be like an inch of snow and everyone loses their mind. So, oh my God, I have to nothing really. You don't really have to change anything.
Well, I guess I'm staying in today.
It makes me laugh. You get like an inch of snow and people are like, oh, well, I best make sure I've got the snow chains ready. You're like, no, you're not going to need the snow chains, dude.
It's going to melt tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll be fine. They grit the main roads and stuff, but you're like,
yeah,
that's about it.
Being fair, people in New Jersey get that way whenever it snows here, too. And it snows quite often here.
Sometimes it rains enough that there's little rivers running through the street, but like I say, I'm on the side of a hill. It's Manchester that gets the worst.
Yeah. You just get a boat, and you'll be fine. But yeah, I lived through Sandy. Now, where I was living, we actually didn't get hit too hard where I was living in Toms River. Toms River is in Ocean County, and Ocean County got fucking mauled by Sandy. I remember driving through the coastal cities over there afterwards, and just it was striking. It was crazy seeing like these houses were moved. They were off their their foundations and stuff, and they were just in a mess. And when I was delivering pizzas at the time too, because I delivered afterwards. And not during the storm, I don't remember, but like after the storm, a few days after, I was delivering pizzas, and there were some parts of Toms River where they just wouldn't actually allow you to get in unless you had a good reason to go there, because I guess they were having bad problems with maybe potential looters going to houses, because a lot of those people left their houses because they actually prepared for it. Unlike something that, Mr. Rush Limbaugh would apparently, try and tell you to not do.
You mean if there's a hurricane heading towards the coast and you're on the coast, it's a good idea to just get the fuck out of there?
Yeah, it might be. It might be. And in a lot of those cases, it probably was a good idea because their houses were completely screwed. And I remember when I was driving through those areas, because I had to deliver pizza, and people were buying pizzas because they didn't have a fucking stove to work with, because, their house was just completely destroyed. They were pulling literally everything out of their houses. The siding of the walls in the house, all of the insulation in the walls, everything else in their house. Beds, TV units, everything was being pulled out because their houses got so badly hit that it was awe-inspiring, you know? But, like, I lived through that. And when I was at college, the college itself lost power for weeks, even. And at one point, when they did finally go back into session, they were still using backup generators, like little diesel-powered generators to power lights and stuff in the parking lot, you know? So it was insane, the devastation that was wrought there. Now, my personal bit of it, we lost power where I was staying for about a week, and I lost my rear license plate of my car. It was gone. I don't know where it went. It was gone, though. So that was fun. That was an interesting little thing that just, wow. Just nothing else that I remember was really wrong with the car. It was just my one license plate gone. Just completely gone.
Just having that. Are you sure it was a hurricane, not just like some kid just goes, having that?
I mean, it happened during the storm, I think.
Yeah, so you'd have to be stupid to be out in that.
Yeah, probably a little stupid. It was pretty amazing, though. But yeah, it was devastating. And throughout all of that destruction, it caused billions of dollars worth of damage, Hurricane Sandy. And it was only a Category 2 when it hit us. And just to put that in perspective, Hurricane Harvey, when it hit Houston, was a Category 4. That's a lot bigger. You know, is this the category system like an exponential system, like how the F system is with tornadoes?
What was that?
Do you know if the hurricane scale system is sort of like exponential in its classifications? Or
I don't think it's linear. It might be. Tornadoes get a lot more. The tornado in the thing gets a lot more higher winds, whereas obviously hurricanes are just a lot bigger. Yeah. An EF5 is much more powerful than a hurricane in the spot where it hits.
Yeah.
So the tornadoes have to account for a wider area.
Yeah.
I think it's exponential.
The what's called the Saffir-Simpson scale is one way that they measure these storms, and a Category 1 storm has 33 to 95 mile-an-hour winds in that range. Class 2 can have 43 to 110 mile-per-hour winds. Category 3, 50 to 129. Category 4, 58 to 156, and Category 5 is pretty much everything above 157 miles per hour, it looks like. In this, it's hard to say because it has two different... that's meters per second. No, I was conflating them. So it's 74 to 95 miles per hour for level 1, 96 to 110 miles per hour for 2, 111 to 129 for 3, 130 to 156 for 4, and 5 is everything over 157.
Roughly linear then.
Yeah. So, yeah, just, it goes mostly on the miles per hour scale of it.
Yeah.
But if level 2 can route billions of dollars worth of damage and be responsible for at least 233 deaths as well in 8 countries, that's a lot. I mean, Hurricane Sandy was big enough that it actually even hit a little bit of Canada, from what I'm reading as well. I believe there may have been even 2 deaths attributed in Canada to it, and $100 million dollars in damage in Ontario and Quebec as well. So it was a pretty devastating storm. And that was only level 2.
It was a lot bigger.
Yeah. And Irma is a level 5 right now, and it's looking like it's going to hit Florida as a level 4. Uh-huh. So it's not going to be as strong as it is right now, potentially at least. But it's still going to be pretty devastating. So, with Mr. Rush Limbaugh trying to say, "Well, we shouldn't be fear-mongering about this stuff right now." Say that to the people who are in harm's way.
Say it in 4 days.
Yeah. Because I believe it's going to hit the coast this weekend, and today is Thursday. This podcast is actually going to drop on Saturday, so it'll probably already be hitting Florida by the time this podcast hits.
Did you see the funny little side? I saw a Facebook group event called...
Oh, God.
What's the full name of it? Everyone points their fans at the hurricane to blow us away. And someone had this mad idea to point their fans at the hurricane to blow it out to sea. And then I saw another one, which was also amazing, from the UK, because obviously if it blows out to the thing, it ended up in the UK. Everyone points their fans at the hurricane to blow it back. I don't know if it's a joke or someone actually believes it, but I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Spread it right, everyone, blow!
It's sort of like, everyone jumping at once to try and cause the earthquake to happen. But that's pretty amazing. But there have been other major hurricanes that have hit as well. One of the largest and most devastating and most deadly storms that has ever hit the United States was another back in 2005, Hurricane Katrina. And that one was devastating, to say the least. Now,
I believe New Orleans is still recovering from that one, eh?
Yeah, probably. And that was over 10 years ago, just to say. Now, what happened in Katrina, actually, it wasn't actually classified as a hurricane originally. It was still just a tropical storm for a while until, right before it hit Florida. It actually, then, right before, hours before it hit Florida, it was turned into a hurricane.
Yeah,
which
it was a
means
very low category
higher
hurricane.
winds and more devastation potential. And then...
I believe before it hit Florida, it moved into warm waters, grew to a hurricane. Hit Florida, I don't think the hurricane in Florida was too big, but it went over Florida into the Gulf of Mexico where it found even more warm water and then just grew. It sort of exploded, boom, into a massive hurricane and then went and trashed New Orleans.
Yeah, so...
It's mad, isn't it? Just got these massive storms wandering around, trashing anything they find.
Yeah. Yeah, so what happened was it hit Florida right after it hit as a hurricane, and that weakened it back down to a tropical storm, and it blew back into the Gulf of Mexico. But, like you were saying, it went back into the Gulf of Mexico, and the warm waters there re-strengthened it, and it rejuvenated, immediately almost into a Category 5.
Yeah.
So it went from under a Category 1 to a Category 5 real quick. And then it weakened back down, though, before it hit Louisiana, down to a Category 3. And then it hit Category 3 and then devastated Louisiana. And a lot of the death that was attributed to it, there are at least 1,245 deaths attributed to that hurricane. And most of the deaths are attributed to the failures of the levees and the walls that they had in place to protect the coastal regions from too large a flooding. And I have a little clip here of what happens possibly when a levee breaks.
If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break.
Okay. We pulled these sound clips before the show, and I've just been hoping to use them at some point.
Them, aren't you?
It's tough, And, you know. Yeah. Okay, so, but we didn't, it's not easy to bring, to pull those into this. But anyway, like.
Could be like, Florida, we're going to rock you like a hurricane.
People might get mixed emotions from that. It's like we're talking about a hurricane possibly killing millions, or maybe not millions, but like hundreds of people in Florida.
Yeah.
So this hurricane is about to hit Florida. It might be categorized as a little bit insensitive.
It's a little insensitive, yeah.
A little bit insensitive.
Still fun.
But yeah, let's go back to Katrina again real quick. It was the deadliest and most devastating. Like I said, 1,245 people at least were attributed to that hurricane and dying. It caused $108 billion worth of damage. That's a lot.
That's an insane amount of money.
That is crazy. Now, there was the only one before that was more, like, maybe not more devastating. The most devastating before Hurricane Katrina happened was actually back in 1928. And back then, they didn't actually have the naming system that they have now on hurricanes. You know, we all see the hurricanes are, well, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy. They give them names. Back then, they didn't actually have a naming strategy yet. It was kind of like, okay, if a hurricane actually hits a town or a city or something like that, we'll just name the hurricane after that city that was affected. And so the one back in 1928 that was extremely strong was called Okeechobee Hurricane. And
it sounds cute.
It's a great one. It's big league. Now, this is named after a lake, I believe. I believe it was in Guadalupe, even in that area. I'm not sure. I don't find it here right off the bat, but like it hit a region there, and the storm surge, those floodwaters, rose over 20 feet. You know, that's insane. You know, that's and at least 2,500 people drowned from that.
Well, that's first floor of your house, isn't it?
Jeez. At least, you know.
It's the ground floor and probably most of the first floor too.
First floor and second floor. You know?
Really? Shit, like 6 meters.
Well, I mean, here in America, like ground floor, usually in most houses, we usually consider the first floor. And then second floor is...
Oh, right, yeah. You know, we have ground floor and then the first floor is the first one on top of that. It
depends. Like, if you're talking about a building... We'll probably call the building's first floor the ground floor, but then the next floor is going to be the second floor. Like, if you go into an elevator, it's usually there's G, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, it goes
this doesn't make sense.
Like that.
This doesn't make any sense. The best one I've seen was in Germany, where they had floor 0 was the ground floor.
Like, how can the second floor be the first floor, though, you know? Isn't the ground floor the first floor?
No.
Doesn't that make sense? You know?
It's the first floor up. In Germany, there's a building
it that way, the first floor up, yeah, but like...
Which was 0 was the ground floor, then it was 1, 2, 3, 4 going up, and then going down it was -1, -2, -2. I was like, oh my god, this makes so much sense. This just makes sense.
Sounds like communism to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was a weird little tangent.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, like...
You like your soundboard too much.
A little bit. I love this thing. I mean, come on. It's great. It's a lot of fun to just queue up sounds on demand like that. But, yeah, I mean... So, let's look at the numbers, though. That Okeechobee hurricane in 1928 caused $100 million worth of damage overall. And thousands of dead. And I would assume back in 1928, they didn't have early warning systems in place. And so that usually would mean that they're going to be hit harder and more people are going to be in harm's way because they didn't know it was coming. So I would like to at least just like push that to Rush Limbaugh, like say, hey, idiot, there's a reason why we warn about these things. Because if we don't warn about them, thousands of people die. If we do warn about them, maybe hundreds will die anyway, because some people just don't take the warnings because they listen to you, you moron. And like, you know, it's so stupid, man. It's so stupid. So yeah, but $100 million, that's crazy. That's like nothing nowadays. But that was probably a lot of money back in 1928, you know? That was right before the Second World War, even. And that was during the Great Depression, I guess?
Oh, there wouldn't be as much money available.
Well, it was right after, I think, actually. So yeah, that's a really rough time for a massive hurricane to hit like that.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, it's just weird how you've got these massive storms just wandering around the planet. And if you're unlucky enough to get guards in them, they're just going to trash it.
Yeah.
Don't give a fuck. Bam.
It's just like a rampaging like Viking warrior or something. He's just crazy.
I was thinking like a bulldozer or a bull.
Yeah.
Like if you got a bulldozer and just drove it in random directions, and if your house happens to be in the way, then sorry.
Well, that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I also wanted to touch on why the naming strategy has come about that we have. I looked up on AccuWeather.com here. They have a little thing. This was written probably a while back. I don't see a timestamp on this exactly. But this is talking about 2005, so it was probably a while ago. But it says here, during World War II, it became highly noticed that the United States was losing ships in the West Pacific because of hurricanes. So coming out of the war, a large amount of research took place to understand these storms and make people more aware of them. You know, early warning system kind of stuff. And as a part of that project, the military started naming them. It also explains that initially these names were based on the military's phonetic alphabet. I'm guessing Alpha, Bravo, Delta,
yeah, I'd
Charlie.
assume so.
And so eventually they settled on more better name system than that, I guess, to make it sound less threatening in some ways and make it easier for people at least to understand. Apparently, there's the hurricanes occurring in the Atlantic Basin are named based on 6 alphabetized 21 name lists, and those cut out Q, U, X, Y, and Z out of the pool of letters that can be used. So first in these alphabetical lists is like an A, like Alfred or Albert would be probably the first storm of the season. And then Bertha could be number 2 of the season. And they would name tropical storms these. And if they happened to grow into a hurricane, then they would keep that name that they were already attributed to as a tropical storm. And so that's how it worked. And if there were more than 21 storms that occur in a single hurricane season, they would then go to Greek alphabet for the names afterwards. So, like, if they had 21 tropical storms and then they had a 22nd one, they might go to I don't know, what's the first Greek numeral? Or
Alpha.
Alphabet. Alpha? Okay.
Alpha, beta,
Oh, so like the military things
gamma.
again, basically.
I think it's alpha, beta,
Basically.
gamma, delta, epsilon. I think.
Fake news.
Don't call me on that.
It might be. It probably is. That sounds about right. But yeah, that's sort of how they get their names though here in the eastern quadrant of things in the Atlantic. The Eastern Pacific Basin has a slightly different listing, and the Central North Pacific Basin has their own as well. So it depends on where you are. We just have that one here, and that's why. So Harvey was H, and I was next. So Irma was the very next tropical storm that formed, and now, what did you say? Jose is the next one. So J, H-I-J, you know? So we're going down the alphabetical category like that. And but yeah, that's how they and why they name them these names, just so it's easier for the masses to understand. You know, okay, Hurricane Katrina, okay, Hurricane Irma, instead of I don't know, Hurricane Echo. Like it just might not you know,
It doesn't
make
sound
as
right,
much
does it?
sense to people or something. I don't know. Maybe it would. I don't know. It just depends. But yeah, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I think, Michael.
Yes,
and,
we have.
We'll have to hope that Jose doesn't become another big ass.
There's another one as well. Katia.
Oh Jesus!
I believe Katia. Or Katie, something like that.
So
but there's another one.
There might be 4 tropical storms and higher in the Atlantic Ocean right now, is what you're telling me.
Yep.
At once.
Yep.
Well,
There's Jose, which may or may not grow into something. And then there's
yeah.
the K one, which may or may not grow into something.
Yeah. Ah, man.
You could get hit by 4 hurricanes.
It is possible. And, I mean, can't say that we told you so kind of thing, you know, as, you know, climate change believers, you know, as we are. But, yeah, I mean, it is possible that we'll have that many. It might not happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but we'll have to see. And with that, guys, I mean, Jordan will be gone next week as well. So me and Michael are probably going to cover another topic. We haven't figured that out just yet. But if you guys have any suggestions, please email us. We haven't gotten a single goddamn email, guys. Come on. You're ruining this whole thing, man. But we have an email address at theevolutionofnow@gmail.com. You can send us comments, criticism, anything that we got wrong, anything you think we left out. Please get in touch with us, guys. We want to hear from you, and we want your input to help shape this show going forward. You can also like us on Facebook. I don't really do a whole lot on there other than I post every week when the show goes up on Saturday. We're at facebook.com/theevolutionofnow, and you can also go to our Patreon page to help us build this program for you guys at patreon.com/theevolutionofnow. And yeah, hurricanes. They are not fun times.
They are
quite
awesome
devastating.
things.
They are awesome in how terrible they are, you know? But yeah. With that, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And I would just have to say one last thing.
You've been thunderstruck.
But anyway, you guys have a great week.
Have fun.
We'll talk to you next week.